Now, after the Karnataka BJP leader and Railway Minister Sadanand Gowda's son Karthik has been accused of cheating and rape by a woman he was allegedly in a relationship with but refused to marry, as the police begins its investigation into what seems to be a love story gone wrong. It's for the courts to decide whether there's truth to these charges after the case is investigated. But is there such a thing as crying rape? We know that there have been orders and statements by the courts on this particular issue. The Supreme Court has also expressed anxiety over a spurt in cases where women in failed relationships are filing rape charges. We're being joined on this discussion tonight in the studio by Bharti Ali activist. Suzette Jordan joins us from Kolkata as well to talk about her experience and what she makes of what's going on in this particular case. Kamini Jaiswal, advocate for the Supreme Court, and we also have the former Delhi Police Commissioner Neeraj Kumar joining us. I want to actually first take this to Suzette Jordan. Suzette, you went through a horrific experience in Kolkata. When you hear about instances where a woman says, I want the Gowdas to accept me as their daughter, I will be a good daughter-in-law on the one hand, and she's alleging their son with, she's charging their son with rape on the other, what does it make you think?
I think each case should be investigated on the grounds of the complaint. It should not be compared. At the same time, it should not be dismissed. The woman in question has reported a crime as rape, so it should not be judged by anybody. It should be investigated as an independent person, as she's asking for help. She's reaching out for help.
Okay,
so yeah, I think...
Yeah, she's reaching out for help, she's asking for help. Kamini Jaiswal, Suzette Jordan is making a very valid point. It's something all of us have actually been fighting for, that when we talk about harassment or molestation or rape, people need to take women seriously. But there also have been observations where the courts have raised concerns about this being abused in the past.
I agree. There have been observations of this provision of rape being abused in the past. But look at the facts of this case. I don't think we are looking at a woman who's only talking of a relationship. She actually talks of being married to this man. And now this man is disowning this marriage. And he says that he has got now engaged to somebody else. So this woman obviously has been cheated. There is cheating, there is fraud, and therefore the consent to that whatever happened, transpired, the sexual relationship that they had, obviously has been obtained by a fraud. So therefore that consent is not free, so it would actually amount to rape, and this lady has to be treated with like that. Her complaint has to be treated as a complaint of rape.
Okay.
Because, and you know, there may be cases where there is fraud, there may be cases where there is a lie, there may be cases where there are circumstances, but more often than we have to look at this very seriously, because no woman would allege rape unless there is something serious.
There was good reason to do so.
And also we look at it, and we have to also look at it, ultimately who loses anything? It's only the woman who loses everything if she alleges rape.
Right.
The man loses nothing.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, Neeraj Kumar, I want to bring this to you. When you're confronted with a case like this, where there are two sides to a story, possibly, but really, as you've heard Kamini Jaiswal and Suzette Jordan say, ultimately, if a woman is coming to you and saying, this is what's happened to me, that allegation has to be taken seriously. Do you think that in this kind of an instance, she has a chance of a fair investigation?
See, first of all, I would like to say that we cannot generalize that every woman whose relationship has soured will allege rape. It depends upon the person, it depends upon the two parties, it depends upon the overall circumstances. And as Kamini ji has rightly said, that it is the woman who has everything to lose, because she has to face the court, she has to face the whole legal process, and also to a certain extent the social stigma. So it is not as if every woman will lodge a false report. It is not as if every strained relationship would end in an allegation of rape. It would be, we'll have to look at it case to case basis.
All right.
Now, having said that,
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead. Finish your point.
Having said that, there have been increase in the number of cases which have been falsely reported. It is reflected in the acquittal rate, in the high acquittal rates that are going, and in the observations of various courts as well. So it is sadly true that there has been a spurt in the registration of false cases.
Okay.
But we cannot generalize. We have to take it on a case-to-case basis.
Obviously. Bharti, I want to bring you in on this as well. Of course, we have to take it on a case-by-case basis. Every such charge has to be investigated. But is this a case where women are weakening women's own causes as well when it comes to possibly situations where the charges prove to be false? We're not talking about this specific case, but even in the past where the courts have made their observations.
Well, I don't think we should be posing it as women weakening case of, women's cause. That's very dangerous, because I do agree with my co-panelists when they say that, we are a country where people do not report sexual crimes.
Exactly.
And when we get these things into discussion, we actually discourage those who genuinely want justice but are unable to even voice their concern. So we should not be using this thing of women being defeating the cause of women. But I do disagree on the fact that there are acquittals because of false cases. The acquittals have it's case by case. One needs to look into the fact that investigation is poor. We still are not able to collect evidence the way it should be collected. We are not able to present evidence, and most importantly, the proceedings are actually very adversarial for the victim rather than the criminal, even today. So there are acquittals for various other reasons, for the prosecution not being able to lead evidence correctly, for the defense counsel being given, a chance to ask all kinds of horrible questions.
Right.
So there are very, very other reasons for acquittals, not necessarily false crimes.
All right, Kamini Jaiswal, I want to ask you, in fact, in May 2013, the Supreme Court acquitted somebody who served a 3 years out of a 7-year sentence on rape charges, and it had said, in fact, that if a man has consensual sex with a woman with the intention to marry her, that it cannot be termed as rape even though the marriage doesn't take place.
I agree, but the question is the intention to marry and the promise to marry. There is a difference. If a person has made a promise to marry, and ultimately there is something which happens pursuant to that promise, then he is definitely guilty of cheating. He has made a false promise. A false promise is cheating. And on the basis of that false promise, that woman has agreed to have a relationship which is, which would, and therefore the consent was obtained by fraud, and therefore it is rape.
So Kamini Jaiswal,
and I also would like to...
Go ahead. No, finish your point.
No, I was just wanting to also say this one thing, that we are talking of acquittals, and because of I agree with Ms. Ali that acquittals are mostly because of the greatest reason is the delay. A trial goes on for 10, 15, 20 years. By that time, even the woman has completely lost it, she's got settled somewhere, she's married, she has children, something happens, and she doesn't want to just go on. So therefore, it is likely that the woman also does not support her own case because of the changed circumstances. It would not happen this way. One, if the investigation was fair and proper, and two, if the trial was conducted expeditiously.
Okay. So Kamini Jaiswal, I want to ask you, then in the sort of ambit of sentencing for cases like this, where you are talking about intention and promise versus something like what Suzette Jordan possibly went through, does the sentence then become, is there a spectrum of sentencing that the courts would look at?
That is what they do. You know, they will, they can say, give the minimum sentence that is there, or the maximum sentence, depending. That is completely discretionary, and the discretion, normally when a court is sentencing, the court will look at the circumstances of the victim, the circumstances of more of the accused, and also look at his background and look at the other situations, and then give the sentence. But you know, at least conviction should be there. The man should know that there are ample cases where, you know, men have done this and they have promised, and you know, things have happened on the basis of that promise, and then it has turned out that the man was already married. Now what happens if the man is already married, he's made a false promise? Has he not cheated? He's not only cheated the victim, he's been cheating on his wife.
Right, okay. So Suzette Jordan, come in on what Kamini Jaiswal is saying. Fundamentally, where, you know, the system fails women when it comes to dragging its feet on the trials. Suzette? Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
Kamini Jaiswal, the senior advocate at the Supreme Court, says that ultimately what is important is, of course, the investigations into the incident, but also that women lose hope when the trials drag on for very long. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
What do you think can be done?
I think what needs to be done is the gravity of each case needs to be taken into consideration, and because psychologically the woman is so, for instance in my case, it's so, it kind of takes your whole life, it drains you out, and you don't know what you're prepared for, and it just strings along, and you're really stuck, you really don't know what to do. So yeah, I agree completely with her.
And Neeraj Kumar, respond to what Bharti Ali was also saying in terms of the investigations and how that they can often be extremely shoddy in these cases, not giving women the kind of confidence to come forward and make their charges.
See, the point
Yes,
I would like to make is that these factors had existed even earlier, which means there have been poor quality of investigations, there have been other issues which have led to acquittals. But despite those factors remaining constant, the acquittal rate has increased. But I don't want to labor on this point endlessly. The solution, I think, lies in fast-track courts. If we want to have quick redressal of justice, a quick delivery of justice, it has to be fast-tracked both at the investigation level and also at the trial level. And what is crucial, which we have experienced even in the Nirbhaya case, that if we are able to get DNA evidence, and in cases where there are false promises, I think the statement given by the lady would be considered to be true, and it is for the judges to decide whether it's true or not. But generally, they would not venture into lodging a false case of rape if there has been a case of cheating, as has been pointed out by Kamini ji.
Okay, Bharti, do you agree with what Neeraj Kumar is saying?
Yes, I do. It's little difficult to see women filing false cases so easily, you know. So we need to really rethink about that. And actually, one really doesn't need to debate this, because are we then trying to say that if there are some women who are misusing the law, therefore we should not have a law?
Right.
We're not saying that. We do need the law for people who are genuinely suffering.
Right.
So what's the point in having a debate on false cases as such? At the same time, the courts have the power to take action if there is a false case brought before the court, and they can use that power. And now, especially in laws relating to child sexual abuse, there is a provision on false reporting,
right.
And there can be action for false reporting. So I think where there is a need for action, the courts should be taking action. But then to make an overall statement that a large number of reporting is false and therefore there are acquittals,
that's problematic. That's problematic. Okay, I think we'll have to leave it there. Essentially, what we're all agreeing on, that these things should be taken on a case-by-case basis for one, and every charge charge needs to be investigated as fairly and freely as the police can possibly do. And I think that means whether it's this case in Karnataka or whether it's in cases that take place in other parts of the country, every woman ultimately does deserve a fair trial. Thank you all very much for joining me on this discussion tonight.